Welcome to the Voice of San Diego, Friday 5, live at 5. It is Friday, it is 5, and we're live. I am Scott Lewis, getting ready for the Padres game, game 2 tonight. Blake Snell, we'll talk about that in a minute. Feels like spring is in the air, things are opening. Got a lot to talk about tonight. Let's get in, though, to number one. Anatomy of an outrage. Let's break down how people across the country got outraged about something in San Diego, why they didn't necessarily need to. First, let's turn to Fox to help us put it in context.
Outrage in San Diego tonight as parents learn teachers from the San Diego Unified School District are teaching migrant children in person.
Woo! Oh no!
Outrage in San Diego tonight as parents learn teachers from the San Diego Unified School District are teaching migrant children in person, while American students in San Diego are still remote learning right now.
Okay. So she's trying to, the outrage is directed literally at me, like, right? Like I'm one of the people, the parents worried about getting our kids back to school. This is supposed to fire me up. Let's break down how this thing happened because this went nuts all across the country. People like, San Diego won't open schools, but they're going to teach these girls that came across the border. Okay, come on. This is nothing like that. First off, here's how it started. San Diego County Office of Education, not the San Diego Unified School District, put this up announcement last week. Quote, San Diego County Office of Education is seeking educators to support educational program for unaccompanied migrant children who will be staying at the convention center through July. An estimated 1,450 girls ages 13 to 17 will be housed at the site for 14 to 30 days until they can be placed with a sponsor. Okay, yes, we have about 1,400 girls on their way to the convention center, some of whom have arrived, and we're taking care of them through support of local nonprofits and the federal government. And the County Office of Education was asked if they could help provide enrichment programs while this happens, while they're here. They're going to get connected. They're waiting proceedings to decide whether they can be here legally and connect with families or other sponsors here while they await those proceedings. They showed up at the border. That's what's happening. Now, schools in San Diego County, there are more schools than just San Diego Unified School District. You do know this, right? I think everybody here knows this, right? There are like 40 districts, more than 40 districts in San Diego County. San Diego Unified's the big one. It's the biggie. It's the one I'm a part of, our family's a part of, and lots of other families are part of. San Diego Unified, as you will know, as loyal viewers of this program, has not been open for in-person instruction, but now plans to open April 12th. We got 4 days at our elementary school. Big ups for 4 days, full days, mostly full days. They even announced that the after-school program would be available. There we go. School is coming back April 12th. So how does this announcement from the San Diego County Office of Education asking for volunteers from across San Diego County, teachers, to come in and teach and help some of these girls while they're here for a month at most? And they're, by the way, not even starting yet, by the way. It's not like they've been holding classes there over the last week. The primary focus of the federal government right now is to get them to bed and fed, to get them here, get them safe, get them food, and get them a bed. That's all that's happening right now. And they aren't even all here yet. So that's number one. Number two, it's San Diego County Office of Education doing this, not San Diego Unified School District. San Diego Unified School District teachers can volunteer for this, just like they can volunteer to serve at their own schools for special needs students there. That's what's been happening, and that's what they were offered to do. And the County Office of Education, if you look at this, says, look, we can probably do some of these after your traditional full-time job. Look at that second to last paragraph there. They're trying to provide additional support for this program. So how did this become a national outrage? Well, it started with Jim Desmond, county supervisor. He noticed that this was happening, and I think he picked up on this release where it says they're going to offer in-person educational program at the bottom. That word in-person probably got his spidey sense up, and he's like, well, they're going to give in-person students or school to them, but not that. Here's Jim Desmond on Fox.
It's very frustrating we have 130,000 students in San Diego Unified School District that are not allowed for in-person training right now. And we've got, these poor migrant kids that came across the border, these girls without parents. And they're I'm not begrudging the fact that they should not have the education, but our kids should have that opportunity as well. And unfortunately, through Gavin Newsom's policies, they've been locked out of the classrooms. It's very frustrating.
Sorry. It is very frustrating that this is happening because you're mutilating the situation here. This is not. It's not San Diego Unified. Yes, San Diego Unified teachers would qualify to volunteer for this, just like they can volunteer to go into their own classrooms. And they're opening up April 12th. I've been as anxious, you folks can attest to this, as anyone in San Diego about getting schools open. I've been talking about it every day for the last year. I've shed a tear about it on this very program. Whoa, when are we going to get schools open? Don't come at me with this, though. Effort to turn my angst and others' angst into this outrage. So it went crazy. Here's Daryl Issa.
The real crisis that we need to deal with are not people who chose to come here, whose families had them come here, and who came over the border looking for a better life. How about the tens of thousands of San Diegans that the mayor and the Board of Education and the union have allowed not to get a quality education?
These guys, if they want to make the case about schools, do not need to use these migrant kids at all. Under no circumstance do they need to use that if their point is, like mine, we need to get kids back into school communities as soon as is possible, as soon as is healthy, because those school communities are all we got for them in so many circumstances. And we need to open those. They could make that point all day long, every day. Then come on my show, go anything, make that point constantly. You do not need to make a point with these girls. They don't fit. They don't fit any point. There's no point to fit them into. Again, we're opening back up. It's not like there's like a school being built there just for these kids and then they won't go and have their own school. No, they're going to be set up in cohorts to handle a little bit of enrichment for the month that they're here. For the month that they're here. Meantime, they are opening schools locally. This has just got so mangled. It went all the way to the federal government. Here was the White House press secretary trying to answer questions about it.
As I understand it, San Diego Public Schools are opening in early April.
April 12th to hybrid learning.
Okay. And students will be back in the classroom. And
okay, stop for a second. This is San Diego County, not San Diego Unified. Get it straight. If you're going to make a point about this and it's outrage, be clear that it's not San Diego Unified, it's San Diego County as a whole. And there are schools here in San Diego County that have been open. We don't actually know how many San Diego Unified teachers volunteered for this program who don't want to go back to classes. And by the way, the teachers voted last week, just a week ago today, to go back to school. 92% of them want to. So nobody at this point is saying we don't want to go back to school. We only want to teach migrant kids, not the Americans, not the Americans. This is wild how crazy and intense this got this week. Get the facts straight, folks. San Diego County Office of Education invited teachers who have the qualifications and the background checks to work with kids, to come in and help these kids for the month that they're here. And we are opening schools locally, and the County Office of Education is different than San Diego Unified. Just have those facts, those basic facts down, and we'll be set as an informed local public. Let's check out your comments. I'm sure they're really good. My own, I don't know what you're talking about. You can talk to my wife if you have something to say. Um, hey, Scott, happy Friday. Hey, guys. All right, number 2, right? All right, we are watching something happen in San Diego. It's reopening, man. We're going to get into that later. But one of the things that might be coming back is conventions. San Diego Comic Con announced that it's going to have a version of Comic Con in November. Comic Con, Thanksgiving Comic Con. That's kind of a good time to have Thanksgiving Comic Con. Thanksgiving. Do it. Great idea. Everybody, there's locals leave. There's probably a lot of Airbnbs and places to stay. You don't have to snarl traffic. There won't be a very interesting concept, Comic Con. But something is happening Tuesday that you should watch for. Pay attention. The San Diego City Council is going to decide whether Measure C from a year ago, March 3rd, 2020, we voted on Measure C to raise the hotel room tax within the city of San Diego. Quick backgrounder. When you stay in a hotel room in San Diego, the city of San Diego, you let's say you pay $200, 10% is added to your bill to pay the hotel room tax, 10.5%. So if it's a $200 bill for the night, you pay, oh my gosh, $22, $21 in tax to the city of San Diego. You pay another 2% to the tourism marketing district so that they can get other people to come and do that with their fancy advertisements. San Diego and its happy place. And they're doing a lot of those advertising, by the way. Get your vaccine. The people are coming. Get your shot. They're coming with all their goobers. They're coming to San Diego. Anyway, so that's 12.5%. There was a ballot measure to raise it. Oh my gosh. Now, is it 3.25% on top of that? Oh, Lisa, I'm sorry. I can't do this. How do I not know? It's like 3.25, 2.25, and 1.25. I might be wrong. Anyway, they want to raise it more. It got almost 2/3 of the vote. Almost 2/3 of the vote. March 3rd, 2020. Almost 2/3. It needed 2/3. It didn't get 2/3. However, there was a Supreme Court ruling several years ago that said if citizens' initiatives that got on the ballot through petitions, if those go on the ballot and get 50.1% of the vote, they can raise taxes. So the California Constitution says if you want to raise special taxes to pay for something like a stadium or a convention center expansion, you have to get 2/3 of the vote. But what the court ruling is that if that tax increase was put on the ballot by the citizens and not by the government, then to pass it, only a majority of citizens need to approve it. That the California Constitution that requires 2/3 does not apply to citizens' initiatives. Well, Measure 3 that raised the hotel room tax was set up to be a citizens' initiative for just this possibility. So even though it didn't get 2/3 of the vote, they have been arguing and telling other folks that they can get this across if the courts uphold that it only needs a 50.1% of the vote to be enacted. That has been a theory, and now it's going to be potentially reality. On Tuesday, April 6th, the San Diego City Council will decide whether to ask a court to validate that that is a correct interpretation of the law, thus raise the hotel room tax, use the money to expand the convention center where those girls are staying now, where Comic-Con wants to come in November, expand the convention center, fund homeless services, and roads. Now, one of the problems with it is that the hotel room tax, of course, has been just destroyed by the pandemic. People didn't come. Now they're coming, but they didn't come during the pandemic and thus didn't pay hotel room taxes. And thus it was kind of like, wow, I'm glad we didn't borrow a bunch of money to expand the convention center because we don't know when conventions are necessarily going to be back at their big level as they were before. Tuesday, the San Diego City Council will decide whether that is the correct interpretation of law in their minds, thus pursue this action, and thus get the hotel room tax increased and expand the convention center. It's a fascinating moment in civic history. They might raise the hotel room tax effectively with that vote. Over time, they got to get the court approval and stuff like that. So it's not going to be implemented right away. But that's a big deal in local civic affairs. And of course, big deal to Comic-Con and future crises where we have to put people who are in desperate situations. I think it's kind of cool that we rallied with the convention center. That we have made it a place for an emergency situation. And I think we should be proud of the people who serve there now and serve in the past to help those folks. All right, let's check out the comments. Your racism is showing your kid hasn't been back because his teacher didn't. Okay, I don't know what that was about. Just the facts, sure. My 7th grade son has a grand total of 2 days in-person instructions and 380. My child is entitled to an education. He's not getting one because COVID is too dangerous. The schools are not open 5 days a week. There's absolutely no reason. Okay, first of all, again, they're not getting like a class. They're not getting like an education. There are volunteers who are educators who are being asked to go and help them. Now, I agree in our districts, they should be opening. And it does suck that some people are getting 4 days and some people are getting 2 days, but it literally has nothing to do with what's happening at the convention center at all. And anybody that's trying to get you to connect those two is only doing so to build resentment against those girls. The reasons why we're only getting 2 days, and by the way, they're not going to get 2 full days of education there. They're going to break up into cohorts. They're going to be here a month. It's to help them make sure that they get some enrichment activity while they're here. Again, operated by the county and the federal government. Many schools in the county are opening. I agree. We need to open schools and we need to do so safely. That is happening, and it is a separate discussion than anything that's happening at the convention center. All right, let's tackle another issue with our number 3. All right, one other thing to know about is the power lines. Look outside, you see power lines. Those are owned and operated by San Diego Gas and Electric, SDG&E. You pay your bill to SDG&E and they keep them going, right? Well, the San Diego city government, that they get to do that because for the last 50 years, they have been collecting and paying the franchise fee from you to pay the city to allow them to do that, to run those lines. And they have done that. That's separate from the responsibility to buy the power from which they deliver, or with which they deliver the power to people. That's a separate process that they have already agreed that they will either be competitive with or just hand off to somebody else to provide in the future. Is the power, the getting of the power. Now, the delivering of the power is something that San Diego Gas and Electric is still doing. Now, there is a movement in San Diego and elsewhere for these cities to take these back, to buy all those lines. Billions of dollars it would cost for San Diego to purchase those lines. But that agreement, that 50-year agreement that we had with San Diego Gas and Electric, expired last year, and now they want to do another one. This week, the mayor wants to put another 20-year deal up and have San Diego Gas and Electric, or if another company bids again, buy it for 20 years to provide this service. But this week, we learned that 4 members of the San Diego City Council, Joe LaCava, who represents the La Jolla area, Carmel Valley, Monica Montgomery, Stepp, who represents District 4, the southeastern San Diego, Marnie Von Wilpert, who represents the Rancho Penasquitos and Rancho Bernardo area, and then Sean Elo, who represents City Heights and the university area, college area, and Talmadge and such. They have all decided that they want to see only a 5-year agreement. Only a 5-year agreement. So that would mean that even if the other 5 San Diego City Council members supported the mayor's vision to do a 20-year agreement with SDG&E, that would not be enough because they actually need 6 votes to make a decision like that. So de facto, he does not have the votes if those 4 members of the San Diego City Council oppose a 20-year deal and want a shorter term deal. He does not have the votes to override them unless he can convince one of them to change their mind and then get all of the other votes in that favor. San Diego continues to march toward or make decisions toward municipalizing its electric infrastructure. It would have to borrow a couple $1 billion or more to buy all of those power lines from San Diego Gas and Electric, and of course, pay that back with your ratepayer funds every year. So that decision is marching forward. The mayor doesn't appear to support or want that municipalization effort, but there are decisions that keep being made that make that much more of a possibility. It's kind of fascinating to watch. Stay tuned for that one. Great reporting by Mackenzie Elmer. You can check it out at voiceofsandiego.org, where we try to explain that and follow that issue going forward. All right, number 4. All right. In 2004, San Diego voted to increase or extend a sales tax, a half-cent sales tax for Sandig, for transportation, for roads, for transit, for all these different things. They made a bunch of promises in 2004 about what would happen to that. Included within that are improvements to I-5 in the South Bay, to I-8, to 805, all these highway improvements. This week, an auditor told the San Diego Association of Governments, who manages that money, that you need to tell the public exactly what you're not going to build because you are $9 billion in arrears with this program. You have $9 billion less than you need to build all the things you promised people when they raised their taxes in 2004. So you're going to have to, as they called it, come to Jesus and tell them what you're not going to build. $9 billion short. What highways you're not going to expand and whatnot. So it's yet another step that the San Diego Association of Governments has made to face reality with the public about how many fewer dollars it has to make good on the promises it made about transit and highway improvement. And what they're probably going to do is come back with a whole new plan for transit in particular and other goals to reduce greenhouse gases as they're committed to doing this time. In other words, as San Diego Association of Governments Executive Director Hassan Akrada said, he wants to make it as easy to get around San Diego using buses and transit as it is to get around right now with a car, which, as you know, would be a big step. There's a big gap between how fast you can get somewhere using transit in San Diego and how fast you can get somewhere with a car, like hours. So that's a big commitment that he wants to get to, and probably what we're going to do to handle this issue about saying to the public what we can't afford to build. Now, how could we afford to build all those other things? They'd have to raise a tax. And guess how they'd probably raise that tax? They'd probably use a citizens initiative to try to get a tax increase so that they could expand transit and other things throughout San Diego County. Remember that whole point about 2/3? Well, if it doesn't need 2/3, because there was a measure to raise the sales tax in 2018, 16, to raise the sales tax to pay for transit and I'm sorry, it's 2016, to raise the sales tax. We discovered during that process that they had made promises they could not make good on because of this $9 billion that we're finally coming to terms with that we do not have to make good on those promises. We broke that story. The measure did not pass, but it did get a majority of the vote. It got like 54 or 55% of the vote. So, in other words, if they had run it as a citizens initiative with this new interpretation of the law, they could have actually maybe gotten it implemented and be doing the construction on those things right now. So, Really interesting moment with San Diego Association of Governments. Let's move on to the Padres are back. I got to get my politics report done so we can go watch Tatis and the boys go. Got Blake Snell starting tonight. There's something happening, folks. We are opening up. Just today, the governor or the state announced that with some restrictions, you can, let's see if I get this, you can have indoor concerts, theater, and conferences. Remember the convention center? Yeah, they're saying, let's go. Let's go. With near record low virus infections, California to allow indoor events. Wild. Check out the hospitalizations chart. Continues to be an appealing trajectory. Obviously, do not want to forget the 60 people who are in ICUs right now struggling for their lives with this virus. But the numbers are far below what they were even this summer or last summer when things got really gnarly. This is great. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. The virus or a variant of the virus is spreading rapidly in Michigan and in northeastern states. And so we're not out of the woods yet, but we do seem to be benefiting. Maybe it's the weather, maybe it's our restrictions, maybe it's just the spread of the vaccine in San Diego County. We have now administered 1.8 almost million doses of the vaccine. We're approaching 1 million people who have gotten at least one dose of the vaccines that are out there. We are getting there with inoculation. Very exciting to see. And it's starting to show. People were at the bar, they were at the ballpark, they were out. It is a lot going on all across San Diego right now. People are going out. I'm a little worried about it, to be honest. I feel like I'm excited because we are witnessing the great reopening. The schools are coming open, the convention center or the ballpark, the bars, the restaurants feels good. Little worried. We got to win this race between the vaccine and the variants. It's a race. I'm not sure we've won yet, but might as well have some fun in the meantime, I guess. Anyway, stay safe, wear your masks. Let's check out these comments. What up, Scott? What up, James? Hello? Definitely not a big fan of voting to overturn an initiative that voters turned down with the hotel tax. The last initiative stated taxpayers were on the hook if money wasn't made to fund the convention center. COVID hit, so ultimately would have paid. Yeah, it's all true. There's a lot of people like kind of like waving off the Black Swan event where we don't get hotel room taxes, but it happened, and it's now happened twice in the last 10 years or like 15 years. So something to watch out for, definitely. We'll see what they do. I would imagine they could delay, actually incurring the debt to store up a few years of payments, that kind of thing. Really interesting moment in San Diego history. Let's check out some of these other questions. Hey, Cliff, thanks. SD schools did a terrible job. The reopening comes too late. They've not done enough to explain what they've done at each site. That's exactly right. This last point. There is plenty of reason for outrage that has nothing to do with migrants. I feel, as well as anyone, the parents struggle to get their kids back into school. But that is a separate issue from what is happening at the convention center. That's the bottom line. Just a completely separate issue. And you don't do any of us a favor when you focus on it. We got to get our kids back. We got to hold them to their commitments and demand that we get at least clear circumstances that are needed to get full-time school in place. We got to do it. I'm a bit worried we're playing so much catch up with COVID that we aren't preparing well to prevent future pandemic. Guarantee you we're not preparing well. We will, hopefully the next one will come within like 50 years where a lot of us will remember how we did everything and what we did wrong. But if it's another 100 years where most people have died, that's gonna suck. Like it's gonna be too bad. They'll be like, oh, what do we do now? And then they'll have to do the whole thing over again. Just learn lessons, people. All right. Anything else? Okay. All right, everybody. Enjoy the Padres. Go Padres. No softball game this week. You don't have to worry about me. I'm going to focus on the kids and on fishing, stuff like that, surfing. Great surf the other day. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Don't go too crazy with the reopening. Let's keep it under control. Let's win the race. Oh, go to voiceofsandiego.org and donate. We're in our spring campaign. If you value this, all my tens of fans, if you value this service, go to voiceofsandiego.org and donate. We need the support because this is we're approaching the end of our fiscal year. In a couple months, this is our spring campaign to make sure that we can do it. There's the link. Thank you. voicesandiego.org, VOSD.org/spring campaign. Thank you all for your support. You can put in there, love the Friday Five when they ask you why you do this. Then they'll keep letting me do this. And Meg, we can justify Meg's time on this. All right. Megan Wood, everybody says thank you. Have a good weekend.